Welcome back to Fishing with T-ravis. I'm out here early this morning on Lake Coldwater to show you how to catch more bass. Kayak fishing a lake for the first time without sonar, with just a paddle and a rod in hand. It comes down to 3 easy steps: a quality pair of polarized sunglasses and maybe a little bit of paddling. Okay, so step 1 before I even get out on the water is to do a little research. So I open up my laptop and I start searching the internet. First thing I look up is the lake I want to fish. I look up a map, mainly a topographical map. It just gives me an idea of the depth, and based off the time of the year, maybe where I think the fish will be, possibly where there's some good points to fish, just gives me an idea of how the lake is. Next, I like to go and just do a Google search of the lake and the fish that I'm fishing for, normally bass in that lake. Because if the lake's big enough, odds are there's a forum or several forums where people share where they've caught fish, where the best spots are, and this can really help you narrow down where you want to fish. And especially if you're going for the first time or you don't have a lot of time to fish the lake, this can really help you get on the fish fast, stay on the fish all day, and have a much better time. And then last thing I like to research is I like to go on Google Maps, and I like to go to the satellite view, because it almost gives me a view like I'm there. I can almost gauge kind of where the drop-offs are. There's sandbars, like here at Lake Coldwater. You can see there are many sandbars in the middle, so that's an interesting thing. You can maybe find little hidden coves or canals where in a kayak you can get to that a boat you maybe might not be able to get to. So after I've done my research, it's time to head to the boat ramp. Okay, so step 2 on your way to catching more fish for the first time on a new lake is as I take my kayak down to the boat ramp, I like to take a look around from the boat ramp, see if I see any specific vegetation, any certain bait fish jumping around. I like to check the water clarity. It just gives me an idea of kind of what the lake's like. And based off this, I like to as soon as I put my kayak in the water and I get out a little bit away from the boat ramp, I like to start breaking out baits based off of what I saw. So at Lake Coldwater, the water was clear and I could see some shad swimming around. So you went with nice natural colors, such as a green tube and a drop shot with a minnow on it. And I also went with a square bill arashi and a spinnerbait, just for some moving baits, maybe help me cover some water at some point, just stuff like that. And another thing you can do, or bait you can break out, is if there are other people at the boat ramp, which there wasn't when I was there, but if there are, odds are they're locals, and if you check out their decks and what they're throwing, that could be something that they throw every day and the fish are always biting on, and it's maybe something you should try. But once I get my tackle ready, I got an idea of the conditions, I like to take a few casts around the boat ramp. Because, it doesn't hurt to start fishing early, and maybe you'll catch a fish and you'll get an idea that the bite's aggressive, or like I did here, you won't catch a fish, and maybe you'll start to think to yourself, maybe it's a slow bite, maybe the storm that moved through with the front last night is going to make it a tough day on the water. But either way, you just get a little sense of the water. So step 3 is on water decisions. So based off the map, I kind of wanted to work down to the little canal at the other end of the lake, but that's a long paddle and I'm not just going to make the paddle without fishing. So as I started paddling, I found these boat docks, and a lot of times fish hold boat docks. So I decided to make a few casts, but I quickly realized that the boat docks were too shallow, which I noticed because of my polarized sunglasses, which enabled me to see the bottom. And with the use of the polarized sunglasses, I also was able to identify a drop-off that I kind of knew was there because of the maps I researched. So I started working these drop-offs, keeping on them using my polarized sunglasses and casting a shad swim bait, just paddle, shad swim bait, to see if I can get any bites and see where the fish were at. But seeing as I couldn't, I decided to eat my breakfast real quick, and a little bit farther paddle down the west side brought me to these reeds. And reeds are usually good because they either A, hold fish, or B, don't hold fish. And today, they held fish. as you can see when I hooked into this big one.
Oh, we got, oh, maybe a big one? He's pulling me a lot. Oh, nice bassy. GoPro, start recording. GoPro, start recording. Oh my gosh, he's barely hooked. Oh my gosh, come here, buddy.
All right, nice little bassy. So after I caught that first big one and the first fish of the day, I continued to work some reeds until I found this little shallow cove. And like I said before, sometimes boats can't get places kayaks can, and even though it's shallow and I didn't think there'd be fish up there, it's always worth a try because odds are boats aren't pressuring fish if they're back there. And maybe I could hook into a decent one. Now, as it turns out, there were no fish back there, just like I thought. So as I moved on towards my little canal at the end of the lake, I ran across these boat docks in slightly deeper water. And as step 3 is all about decisions, I decided to fish them. Because boat docks are good structure, and when you're not using a sonar, structure is key.
Got him. Oh, nice bassy. Nice bassy. No. My guy.
So, as the boat docks faded, I worked back to some reeds. This time the reeds didn't hold fish. Like I said, reeds are hit or miss. But I did see another bass fisherman out there. He was working more of a middle lake sandbar drop-off. And that's good information to have and file away for later. But me personally, I just kept to the shallow boat dock structures.
Bassy.
And I caught this rock bass and eventually hooked into a nice pike.
Oh my god, giant pike. Giant. Literally. I don't know about giant, but he's. Oh! Like a 30-inch pike. Scared the shit out of me.
But after losing that pike, the boat docks turned shallow again. So, using my polarized sunglasses and knowledge of the lake, I continued on to a kind of mid-lake drop-off, where I was just fishing weed beds using a soft plastic worm, and I hooked into this nice little bassy there. And I was able to stay on that drop-off for a little bit using my polarized sunglasses until it got too windy and there were no fish biting, and I finally moved back to the cove I wanted to fish all day. But, as you can tell, my little cove was a little disappointing. Because besides having some nice deep weed beds and some nice boat dock structures, besides my first cast where I hooked into a bass, there wasn't a whole lot of fish biting. And that was probably due to the front that moved through that I mentioned earlier, but it was still a little disappointing until I hooked into this big one on the way out. And, as you can tell, I was very disappointed to lose that fish, and a little disappointed with the day overall. But that's how it is sometimes, whether it be due to weather or water conditions. No matter how well you follow the 3 steps, sometimes you just don't get into the fish. But with a few more casts, I was able to put one more fish in the boat, which made me very happy. He also spit out a shad, which proved I was using the right technique, and it was more just the conditions, which is why I wasn't catching fish. So I hope you learned a little today and can use my 3 steps to help you put more fish in the boat when you're on a lake for the first time. And that's all for fishing with T-ravis as the boat traffic picks up and gets me off the lake.